With Roccia coming out in just a few days, we know exactly why you're pulling her. Because she groups enemies. In today's video, we're going to be going over her rotation, skill priority, best echo sets, weapon options, power level, character synergies, and her sequences at the end. Roccia's rotation is relatively straightforward. You're going to want to start with an intro, into one basic attack, then ult if you have it, into skill, which puts you in the air, and then do 3 bounces. The main reason this rotation is good is because of the quick concerto energy you gain from her plunges. The most important thing to note here is that when you do your intro attack, you're going to want to make sure you do that one basic, because her intro allows you to skip into her basic 4 that gives you 100 forte energy when you cast it. This actually puts you at the perfect amount of forte to where you can use your skill and start plunging right away. Oh, and one more thing to note about her rotation, if you get interrupted while using her skill, using her heavy attack can get you back into the air so you could start plunging, so you don't have to wait for your skill to come off cooldown. As far as Roccia's talent priority goes, the main thing you're going to want to level is her forte, as this is the main source of her damage by far. If you want to level more than that, you can level her liberation, followed by her skill, then normal attack, and then intro. As for her weapons, there's really not going to be too much of a difference. If you get her signature, it's just barely better than Verity's. Stoneart is a very good Battle Pass weapon if you want to get it, and if you're going to go free to play, you can always pick up Marcato, as it'll help a little bit with Concerto, although she generates it relatively quickly anyways. So for Roccia's 2 best Echo Set options, it's going to be between Moonlit and Midnight Veil. Now which one's better? Let's find out. The current set I'm running is Midnight Veil for this one. And now we can check the performance of Moonlit. I actually find the results quite surprising, with Midnight Veil being better for a well-invested Roccia, and Moonlit being better for a well-invested Camellia. So in conclusion, if you're not planning on getting Roccia's weapon, or not planning on investing her very much, going Moonlit will be just fine. It might even be better if you have a very well-invested Camellia. As far as teams go, Shorekeeper and Verena will be great for sustain role. If you don't have either one of them, Baiju will be acceptable. As for the DPS slot, Camellia, the Rover, and Danjin are going to be seeing a pretty nice increase to their damage from Roccia. Since Roccia is tailor-made for Camellia, let's see how Roccia compares with Sanhua, which is currently Camellia's best support. Roccia is roughly an 11% increase over Sanhua, but only if you have her weapon. This makes Sanhua a very valuable unit, and you don't necessarily need to pull Roccia for Camellia. The reason for this is that Sanhua provides pretty good attack buffs, as well as a basic attack amplify that synergizes well with Camellia. On top of her low field time, Sanhua is almost as good as Roccia. For all you Danjin players out there, Roccia will be a pretty good upgrade for her team, providing roughly a 19% increase in damage. However, this is more due to Roccia's personal damage being decent, more so than how much she's buffing Danjin. And finally, we can go over Roccia's sequences. Roccia's S1 is mostly a quality of life. It allows you to get an extra 100 Forte energy and 10 Concerto energy when using her skill. It also gives you some immunity to interruptions when you're doing your plunge attacks. Roccia's S2 is a team-wide buff, giving Camellia's team roughly 11% better performance. If you're pulling sequences to buff your Camellia, this is a good stopping point, as the rest only buff Roccia. Roccia's S3 definitely won't break the game, as it gives only about a 2% increase. S4 increases the damage multiplier on her plunge attacks, which actually ends up making her plunges do pretty decent damage, hitting a little over 100k, with the very well-built Roccia. Roccia's S5 gives her an increase to her heavy attack and her liberation, although you'll only see the liberation here since her heavy attack's not a part of her core rotation. And finally, Roccia S6. Her S6 gives her 4 additional plunges. On top of that, she gets 60% defense shred for those plunges, making her hits upwards of 186,000 if you have an extremely well invested Roccia. This ends up providing the team with about 67% more total team damage over her sequence 0. In conclusion, Roccia is probably one of the more skippable characters in Renacida. This doesn't mean that you should skip her, it's just the current content doesn't usually have a lot of waves of enemies, which is where she'll probably end up excelling with Camellia. If they add a new type of endgame that isn't tower adversity and has more waves of enemies, then she will actually be a very valuable unit. That being said, she does power creep Sanhua in the fun factor, and she also is Camellia's best support. That's going to wrap it up for my Roccia guide. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe, as I will be making a video about Phoebe and Brent when they come closer to arriving. And thank you for watching.